Welcome to our virtual Swiss National Day event on August 1st. Today we are very honored to speak to Ambassador Dr. Jean-Jacques de Dardel about Swiss culture, which is, about the country that we live in and the country that we want to bring into the future. So right after our conversation on this video, we will actually also show our virtual August 1st concert featuring the famous violin player Wang Xiaoming. The virtual concert is composed of a mix of Western and Chinese music from musicians from our diverse community. But now let's go to the Swiss culture. So maybe a quick introduction. So Ambassador Jean-Jacques de Dardel, among your many previous posts from 2014 to 2019, you were the Swiss ambassador to the People's Republic of China, to Mongolia and the DPRK. And from 2011 to 2014, you were Swiss ambassador to France and Monaco. You have been the Director General of the Swiss Department of Foreign Affairs Division for European and Central Asian Affairs at the Council of Europe and OSCE as well. So you have like a huge career. So yeah, that's really great to have you here. Currently you are Vice President at the Shinrei Business School, and you are also on the board of numerous companies, large and small. And of course, also we are very happy that you are an honorary board member of our association in China. So thank you very much for joining in today.
Thank you very much, Carly. Thanks for this very generous and gallant introduction. I'm very glad to be with you today, indeed. Our National Day happens to be in August, in the middle of summer, so that we usually enjoy a nice weather, and this is the case today. So I am basking in the sun, hiding behind my sunglasses, but very happy, again, as I've said, to be with you.
Yes, thank you very much. And yes, so Switzerland is such a wonderful place. Just see where you are right now, right? In Fribourg, right? You said you're in Fribourg.
Yes, indeed. I'm in Fribourg. I live in Fribourg now. Yes.
Yes, wonderful. So let's try to understand more about Swiss culture, and we have prepared some questions in that respect. So let me ask you these questions. Thank you. So like the first question is really, what does Swiss culture mean to you?
Well, Swiss culture, look, I'm a citizen of the world in a sense. I've lived in many different places, and I feel at home in different cultures. French culture, Anglo-Saxon culture at large, even Latin American culture. And I've grown accustomed to Chinese culture. This being said, I am a Swiss, and Swiss culture has a special meaning to me. It's not the sole reference for me, as I've tried to point out, but precisely Swiss culture fits in very well with that because it is very diverse. It's composed of diversity. Swiss culture is the result of a mix of people who have decided to live together, and so who are tolerant to each other and accept their different ways of life. And that's what it means to me. It's a culture of openness, of very strong roots, a strong identity, a very local identity, but yet made up of openness and in conjunction with others. And that's certainly what I like about this culture of tolerance and openness, which has been accompanying me all throughout my life.
So nowadays, Switzerland is one of the most wealthy countries in the world. But we still see that Swiss people are still so down to earth, humble and hardworking. And so what is the secret?
Yes, the Swiss are indeed humble and hardworking. You might define them as being rich, but we're not nouveau riche. We've been wealthy for generations, for a couple of centuries. We struggled at first. We came from a poor part of Europe, and We didn't get rich easily and quickly. We have no natural resources whatsoever. We had to wait for the Industrial Revolution. We started our Industrial Revolution very, very early on, just after the British.
Mm-hmm.
And that enabled us to get rich little by little. And the way to go forward for us was only through work, hard work, and brain work, because again, we have no natural resources.
Mm-hmm.
So that made us become even more aware of the value of work. Riches came along with that, of course. And we have a very affluent society, but it is mainly based on this respect for work, hard work put in by all.
Mm-hmm.
And that has not led to any form of particular political power or colonial power. We didn't derive our wealth from colonialism at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not laced with a form of arrogance. We remain modest. And indeed, the Swiss are sometimes, to my liking, a little too modest, but that is a characteristic trait of Swiss personality. So you're right about that.
So as an ambassador, of course, you were representing Switzerland, all aspects of Switzerland, including the Swiss culture in other countries, yes. Including People's Republic of China, of course. And so do you know if Switzerland is actively like identifying its culture and is also preserving its culture?
I mean, the answer is yes, but it's not as simple as that. We don't do it in an institutional way. We certainly don't do it top down. There is a ministry which deals with culture, but it's only part of the large ministry. Culture itself is in the hands of the cultural makers, the artists, the people who build up society. And we have this notion of bottoms up. So we preserve our culture in as much as we leave our people to be free to develop it themselves. And of course, there is support at the local level, at the municipal level, at the cantonal level. Cantons equate Chinese provinces. But again, there is no master plan for upholding our culture. Our culture develops by itself and of itself, and everybody's happy with that, and everybody contributes actually. So we don't have a difference between the cultural scene, the cultural people, and the rest who would be only viewers. We're actually all participants in our own culture.
Swiss people can sometimes appear a little bit reserved, and I think you also had this maybe situation with people from Switzerland and people from other countries in several embassies or so. So what is your experience? How to break the ice, or how to start a conversation with Swiss people? So how to make friends?
How to make friends with Swiss people? Look, the Swiss have this reputation of being perhaps a little reserved. It's a deserved reputation for some, for many, but not for all. And the answer to your question would probably be the same in many other countries, but because of the very strong sense of identity that the Swiss have, and that identity is linked to their origin, that is their canton, their municipality, or their commune, where they studied, and so on and so forth. One way of breaking the ice is to ask the typical Swiss question: where do you come from? And where do you come from doesn't relate to Switzerland. Of course, they're Swiss if they're in Switzerland and you meet them here, but where specifically? And people like to talk about their specific origin and their roots. And so if you show interest for that, if you ask them what they like about their place of birth, origin, or their place of where they live, if you start asking questions, and if you show interest in what makes Switzerland, if you even show that you understand a bit of this composite society and this very diverse little country, you're sure to strike up a good conversation. You can then ask, well, do the Swiss know China? Have they traveled? We're really very big travelers. We roam the world. So many Swiss will have visited China or know things about China, and that enables you to then not only strike up a conversation, but develop a rapport, a relationship. And believe me, once a friendship starts here, it's very lasting because we're not superficial. And so there are different circles of friends. Of course, you have acquaintances like everywhere, but the Swiss are very true to their friends. They're very loyal to their friends. And if you start developing a relationship, you'll see that it's going to be forever. And that's very nice, because I sense that that is also the same in China, because that's what I've experienced. Breaking the ice is not only smiling, it's going deeper into a meeting of personalities, a meeting of cultures, precisely. And I think many people are then surprised at how actually open the Swiss are and how ready they are to make friends with different people.
So basically, as you said before, so Switzerland it's also a mix of different culture. It's in the center of Europe, right? It has several languages. So what do you think is the secret to the Swiss culture, how it interacts with the culture of immigrants? Because as I understand, over the centuries, there were like different immigrants coming from different areas of Europe, but also of the world, right? But it still works somehow.
Yes, yes, absolutely. You're right about that. We're a country of how should I say, true original Swiss, but just as much we are a country of immigrants that have then so totally integrated that they became as Swiss as anybody else. But how do we communicate? How do we interact with the notion of immigration? Let me tell you this. There are over 25% of residents in Switzerland who are foreigners with no Swiss passport. Out of the rest with a Swiss passport, we have many dual citizens who relate to Switzerland because they're Swiss, but also to another country. And we have millions of tourists coming in. I mean, very many millions of tourists coming in every year. And about 10% of the Swiss population lives abroad and not in Switzerland. So this notion of immigration is absolutely central in our self-definition, both ways. We accept immigrants and we emigrate too. We're not particularly a land of emigration like Ireland, for instance. It's all right. We can also stay here, and we don't have more people abroad than at home. But because of this traveling, we have developed a particular interest in other people's cultures, but we also tend to assimilate and integrate people who come to us very quickly. And time and again, you see that immigrants to Switzerland end up, after a short while, liking our modus vivendi, our way of life. And so they assimilate our codes, and they're happy to play by the rules, if you will. And so they feel very integrated. And it's amazing how foreigners in Switzerland may still relate to their country of origin, but feel Swiss. And so that is the bright side to it. Of course, we're not a perfect country. We also have xenophobia. We also have community to community problems from time to time. But I'd say that as long as an immigrant accepts our way of life and plays by our rules, then not only will he feel perfectly free and happy, but he'll be left to go on abiding by his own rules because we're very tolerant. So in that sense, even though we have had more immigration than most countries around the world, percentage-wise, as I said, and so many refugees throughout the ages and years, we have developed a society of sufficient tolerance for all of that to create a melting pot, not in the sense of North America, where everybody becomes American and that's it. But we're a melting pot of different identities brought together, but still alive as such.
So something like the United Nations in a country, basically.
Well, it's true. It's true. We have so many nationalities represented in Switzerland. Yes, you can say that that way, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, and it's also in Geneva, right? Actually, the United Nations. I mean, yeah.
Yes, of course.
Some part of it, yes. Yeah. So you have been for many years. You have been the Swiss ambassador in the People's Republic of China. So so when you arrived and like over the years, did you see some aspects of Chinese culture that you thought were quite Swiss, or even the other way around? So are there any parts of Chinese and Swiss culture that are similar?
Yes, I would say that what struck me was not the difference, but actually certain similarities. Differences go without saying. You expect them. But then you discover that there are many characteristics and traits which bring you together. You know, culture is something very global. So I don't relate only to the arts and to creativity. It's a whole of society situation that I'm looking at. And I can say that, well, the first notion that struck me is that we're both very hardworking people. We identify with work and we're happy to work. The second thing is that it just so happens that we both tend to abide by the rules and regulations. We tend to respect them, either because there are many of them or just because we fall in line with them and we accept them as such. So that also brings us together. Then something that we touched upon a bit, I'd say that I have sensed that in both countries, the notion of family, friendships is very important. This circle of friendships that defines yourself is interesting and important in both countries.
Yes.
For the rest, of course, there are very many differences, but let me tell you that at the purely cultural, the arts scene level, I'd say that we both like and favor festivals and traditions and folklore. But I've also noticed that we both have a very, very lively contemporary arts scene. Switzerland is known the world over for its contemporary world art scene, and Art Basel is a good example of that. But that's exactly what I've also seen in many parts of China, which produces great world-level contemporary art. And what came to mind at first, but I didn't want to put it out there in front.
Yes.
There is something else that struck me, is that for totally different reasons and without there having been an interrelation or an influence, both countries have a tradition of paper cutting. Paper cutting in certain parts of Switzerland is very much part of traditional arts. It's very lively and it's very beautiful. And of course, in China, you have that also as a treasure.
Yes. Yeah, we should definitely do an event once about this part of the culture. That's really interesting to know. Yes, really. And only insiders know this. Insiders like you. Yeah. Yes. So, all right, then maybe something about Switzerland again. So, so do you think Swiss culture evolves, or does it always stay the same? And if it does evolve, do you see any direction in where it is moving?
That's an interesting question. It brings us back to the definition of culture. What defines Switzerland and what defines Swiss culture is not so much the arts and creativity and the art scene. It is the socio-political culture of the Swiss, the way they live together, the way they organize society, the way they participate in decisions, voice their opinions, debate all the time, and yet develop an acceptance of each other and a form of tolerance, even though they remain staunchly in favor of their own ideas or ideologies or opinions. And this basically doesn't really change. We remain just as open, a debating society of acceptance and so on. But as you see, our culture is in tune with society. And so it's in tune with the changes, the evolution of society. societal questions are always at the center of our conversations. And in that sense, as society evolves, yes, of course, our culture evolves too. Nowadays, for instance, the topics of the day, I speak almost like an old man. What I mean to say is that as important as these topics may be, and they are, we had other topics 10, 20, 30 years ago, and evolution set in, an acceptance for the ones or the others. Nowadays, the questions at hand have much to do with the environment, the protection of the environment, climate change, the greening of the economy, the changing attitudes that we as individuals should bring to bear so as to protect our environment. We're also very much in tune with and very worried about gender questions, gender equality, the role of the ones and the others, and an additional tolerance for difference and for differences being respected at the highest level. And so gender questions are very much at the heart of our society. So this is how our culture evolves, by integrating a form of consensus, which takes a certain time to build. But once it's built, it really is part then of the Swiss attitude towards life.
Yes, and yes, it's very timely that you also mentioned the environment, and of course we know that both China and Switzerland, recently had troubles with floodings and other extreme weather. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and yes,
we do.
I hope that everyone stays safe, and so just a small note about that. Yeah.
We both had our share. China and Switzerland, and how should I say, relatively speaking, it's the same. Only some parts of China are flooded. Only some parts of Switzerland get tremendous hail and horrible floods and misery. But it becomes a national problem. Everybody's concerned about that. Everybody pitches in and tries to do something to prevent that from happening again. Yes. So yes, that brings us together too.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Yes, and so do you think young people in Switzerland are still interested in Swiss traditional culture? And if yes, in what parts? I mean, obviously, as an ambassador in many different countries, Swiss traditional culture, it's a great marketing tool for Switzerland, right? Yes. But it's not just marketing, it's culture actually, right? Yeah.
But your question relates to the young, and
yes,
I laugh because that's not exactly how I define myself now, but I have been young.
You're young-minded.
I have had black hair and not only white. So yes, I believe I can answer that by saying that I guess instinctively, I'd say there'd be a difference between the people, the young in large urban areas. We have a few towns, which are cities, and the ones in smaller towns and out in the countryside. There might be a difference, but overall, I'd say that the young, however modern they may be and totally ensconced into the modern internet IT world, yes, they do like these traditions. They participate. They're players and not consumers. You'll see that all over Switzerland, we have local traditions. And these traditions, which then mount into festivals and events, are attended and draft in people of all ages, and especially the young. They're very happy to play the game. Now, it's not only about, how should I say, single events. We have them, of course. We have La Fête des Armourins in Neuchâtel, the Escalade in Geneva, which dates back to 1602, and then the Sachsenleute in Zurich, and the Fastnacht, the Carnival in Basel, known all over Europe. All of that brings in our young, and they participate. But I'd also say that, culturally speaking, the Swiss are extremely sporty, and our young are very sporty. So a lot of traditions have been built around sports. So it goes from, specifically Swiss wrestling, which is a sport, to general sports, just like hiking or bicycling, cycling all over, river rafting, water sports, and any kind of strenuous sport is something which then has been built into our culture, and the young abide by that. So I'd say yes, the young participate in this in these traditions and this folklore just as much as they are producers and consumers of very modern, metal bands and punk and rock.
Yes, absolutely, and also about mountain biking, right? As we saw on the Olympics, right? There was even I think in women's mountain biking, it's like the whole podest by Swiss women. That was quite a sight, right?
That's right.
Yes.
True. The Swiss were very happy.
So
there isn't only tennis in Switzerland. Roger Federer and our tennis women and men are world known, but no, it's all over the spectrum of sports. Now, I'm not saying that our culture is defined by sports, but sports plays a part in that culture, and the young are real actors in providing and producing culture in our midst. Yeah. They give their opinions too, and they're listened to.
Yeah. Wonderful, yes. What parts of Swiss culture do you think is most interesting to Chinese people? I mean, you've had many years to observe. So what worked best? Or
well, yeah, interesting question, because here, let me say, I believe there are at least two levels of answer, because there are two levels of approach. I think the Chinese, like Switzerland, have heard a bit about Switzerland, and at first what they equate Switzerland with is watches, chocolate, quality consumer goods, things of that sort, and that is part of our culture, so there's nothing wrong about that, and it is very central to our culture of quality, precision, of hard work, and so on, so of excellence when it comes to food stuff. So that's very much at the core of it. But I do believe that the Chinese, when they come to Switzerland and live here for a while, be it a few days or really a longer time, they then also enjoy something that they've seen, and that is our nature. Our nature is not only a gift of God, it's something that we work on very intensively to preserve it, make it beautiful. So it's the result of all of that work. So they tend to like our nature, but they also like the way we preserve our heritage, our old towns, our castles, our mansions, our churches. You are here in an environment, the whole of Switzerland is an environment where you're always glancing at the past and the present at the same time. And I believe that this is also something that is seductive for Chinese who come here. And then it's the culture of meeting people, being friendly to each other. So that is, I believe, what a bit deeper will stand out as bringing us together.
So maybe just one more question, which I think is very fitting in this environment that you are right now, which, yes, it's just wonderful. Yes, yeah.
That's the environment, but here I am again.
Yes.
Tell me.
Yeah. So yeah, the question is, what is your hometown? I guess we already got some hints there. And and so what are the specialities of the culture there? And personally, do you recommend, what places do you recommend if people come to this place? And also, what should they taste? What should they experience?
Switzerland is a very complex country, and there are no easy answers. And what meets the eye may not be the total picture. Of course, you see me living in Fribourg, and you'd say, this is my hometown. And I will talk to you about Fribourg. Fribourg is a very medieval, ancient town. Fribourg had its hours, or actually centuries of glory in the 14th and 15th century. It remained feudal for a long time. It's very well preserved. It was a conservative and rather poor canton, but it developed very well and very fast, and now it's booming. And there are many things to visit here. But you see, I'm not from Fribourg. I live here because of my wife, who is from Fribourg. I myself, as a Swiss, my family origins are in Neuchâtel and in the canton of Valais. And there too, there are beauties to be seen and upheld, and traditions which are very different than the ones from here. And culturally, if ever, I'm from Geneva. That's where I did the whole of my studies, the end of my secondary studies, all of my university studies. That's where I identify as someone coming from somewhere. So you see, there's no easy answer to where is my hometown. I have various hometowns. But if ever you were to visit the one or the other, look at the little train, which is on the bridge. I don't know if you see it.
Oh, yes, yeah, I see it.
Tourist galore. Look, I'll speak to you about these different towns I've mentioned. Everywhere in Switzerland, not only the ones I mentioned, I'd recommend walking, not driving, but walking through the old towns. They're very well preserved. They're very authentic, and they're very picturesque. And so you always win by just walking about and seeing this mix of old and new. Take a look at our museums. We have a treasure trove of museums in Switzerland of a very high quality. And depending on what is of interest to you, arts and history, or specialized elements of life, you'll have an easy access and entry to these museums. Then I'd say, go out of the beaten path, the beaten track, take a bike or a car and move from little village to little village. You'll have a sense of our nature. You'll get a sense of the quality of life, this interpenetration of constant nature and the buildup, because our society is also made up of people who have children, and it's growing. You will benefit from something that is not unique to Switzerland, but certainly which is very prevalent here, and that is the fact that we're so small as a country, but so diverse, a lot more diverse than most countries I know, certainly of that size, enables you to go from one culture to the other, from one scenery to the other, from one architecture to the other very quickly, very easily, just by biking or taking a car or naturally riding our trains, which crisscross the country, not the fast trains, the little trains that go up in the valleys and the mountains and around our lakes, which are quite beautiful too. So those are things that are to be done. And then if you're lucky enough to be here on a day when there is a special event, a special festival, do partake. Everybody will be very happy to, well, tell you about it and bring you in. This is also very rich and cultural. Now, of course, you can go to the stores and buy watches and chocolate, but there's a lot more that you can do specifically by being here. You can buy our watches everywhere in the world, but this kind of setting, the scenery, no, not really. And in these parts, in all of these parts, do look at gastronomy. We have as diverse a gastronomy here, relatively speaking, as you do in China. All of our cantons have their specialties. In most nowadays, also, it's not only about food and cheese. If you like cheese, there are hundreds of different cheese, just like we have hundreds of different sausages and meat preparations. Yes. But we also have excellent wines. We're a traditional wine producing country since Roman times and before. Our wines are acknowledged to be very, very good. They're not exported that much because we drink so much of them, and we don't produce very large.
It's rare. It's already consumed locally.
Yes, it is. But truly, they're very good, and again, acknowledged as such. So you can have a holistic approach to coming to Switzerland, and in just a few days, get a sense for it all. And do come.
Yes, and I really think it's a wonderful answer, and it really does make sense. It's because Switzerland is so small and has so many different cultures. Yeah, it's really a pity if you wouldn't check out at least two of these areas of Switzerland. Let's say it that way, right? Yeah.
I gave you 4 or 5.
Yeah, wonderful. Yes, so again, thank you very much, Ambassador Jean-Jacques de Dardel, and yes, I wish you, of course, you and your friends and actually everybody a happy Swiss National Day.
Thank you.
Please celebrate with fireworks and everything, right? And yes, so thanks
And
again
friends,
for your time, and friends, yeah,
friends and family. So
and
happy
local
1st of
wine.
August to all of
Yeah.
you. Thank you very much. It was a
Yes.
pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. Please stay tuned. So now, just after that, we will have the virtual Swiss National Day concert. Thank you very much. Thank you very
Bravo.
much, Ambassador, and hope to see you another time. Yeah.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye to all.
Have a great day. Thank you. Welcome to our virtual concert on Swiss National Day. The concert is composed of members of our diverse community from all walks of life and all different backgrounds, young and old. We are delighted to have the famous violin musician Wang Xiaoming among us, a violin prodigy who grew up in China and now lives with his family in Switzerland. He is, in my opinion, one of the best violin players in the world. And also, I am happy to welcome Yelu Zhang, who made our logo and is the creator of Dali Long, a cartoon of a dragon called Dali Long, who, with his friends from Switzerland and China, tries to learn more about the culture of Switzerland and China. Wang Xiaoming, you are a bridge between different cultures. Do you think music is a good way to connect people?
Yeah. Hi, Cardi. Hi, Yelu. Nice to meet you here. It's pleasure to have this beautiful project with you together. And of course, absolutely, you are right. I think the music is the uniform language in the all over the world. If there's the can't explain anymore with the language, then it's the time for music.
Wonderful. Yes, absolutely right. And yeah, those who have had the pleasure to listen to your music can definitely understand it. That yes, it's
I try.
something
Yeah.
overarching over all cultures. Yes. Thank you. So and Yelu, Dali Long is the cartoon where a dragon tries to learn more about the culture of Switzerland and China. So what is the original idea of Dali Long?
The original idea from very beginning come from my son. His Chinese name is Dali, and he liked to draw and read comic. And so he grew up in a Swiss Chinese culture mixed family, and I think it's the best way to show him in cartoon or in picture what's the similar and the different culture from China and Switzerland. So that's the idea why I begin to draw this cartoon since 2 or 3 years for CSC. Yes.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you very much, Yelu. Wang Xiaoming, so what are your next events? Where can people listen to your music?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I have always coming up concerts. It's the very close one is I have organized my own festival. Actually, it's the violin festival. Very interesting, and it's a beautiful Zurich lakeside though, and we will beginning from the 15th August to the 18th August. And the 2nd of September as well in Männedorf in Zurich. The name, the festival name is CCB, Mean Classics Festival and Academy. So this is a very special project that we fund together with the China Construction Bank in Zurich, and they're supporting us for this special project because this is a festival, but also an academy. Then we invite the very talented violin young player from Zurich, also from the whole Switzerland. Now we have over 25 very good top young talent musicians to join with us, and they will also get a special prize from us, who play the best violin, and with also a Chinese song.
Wow, that's wonderful. Yes, that sounds very exciting. And yes, definitely I will try to join. Yes.
Please, you're really welcome, and everyone here welcome to joining us.
Thank you very much. Yes, so I would also like to say that you can also find more about Wang Xiaoming on his YouTube channel, which we will link in the comments down below of this video. And also you can find more about Yelu's intercultural cartoon Dali Long at her Facebook page, which we will also link in the comments of this video. And now please enjoy our virtual concert on Swiss National Day. Thank you.
Thank you.